Today's scripture reading brings us to Proverbs chapter 22. Proverbs chapter 22 is a continuation of miscellaneous wisdom on a variety of different topics. But today, I'm going to try something a little bit different. I don't know if it will help or not. If you can tell me if you prefer it or don't prefer it, would be wonderful in the comments section afterwards. But what I thought might be helpful anyway is to, instead of just sitting here looking at me, because that's just not adding anything to the conversation, I thought maybe it would be good to look at the scriptures as we do this. And so I have this camera here set up. And this is what you're seeing here is the way this is my computer Bible program that I use when I'm studying. And I'm able to mark it very similar to the way I mark my scriptures in my physical Bible. And so I wanted to look at this and as we go through the scriptures and see if this is some type of help and blessing to you. So today we're going to just deal with a few different verses. The first one that we're going to look at there is verse number 3. Verse number 3 of chapter 22 says, "A prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself, but the simple pass on and are punished." Now, this works in the physical realm and it works in the spiritual realm. Physically, you could illustrate this such as if a man is driving down the road and in front of him is stop signs and there's a cliff going further, well, if he's not foreseeing the problem, if he's not paying attention, then he could very well fly through that and off the cliff and lead to his destruction. And that's how it will work physically, but it also works spiritually in this. I thought of Proverbs chapter 7. In fact, if you look at this little red paper clip I have there, I have a link to these scriptures. But in Proverbs chapter 7, he talks about the foolish young man that goes into the harlot. And in verse number 8, it says, "Passing through the street near her corner, he went the way to her house." If you remember back in Proverbs chapter 7, it spoke about how this young man would go near the place. And then in verse number 25, it says, "Let not thine heart decline to her ways, go not astray in her paths." See, a prudent man will foresee the danger ahead spiritually. And therefore, that's why the Bible instructs us in this instance with a strange woman that you don't even go anywhere near her. Don't go by her way. Steer clear of her altogether. A prudent man will do that, foresee the evil, but the simple will pass on and, of course, will be punished. All right, verse number 4. "By humility and the fear of the Lord are riches and honor and life." We see three things that come by humility and the fear of the Lord. You see wealth, you see stature, and you see health. And of course, health being physical and spiritual. Verse number 6, "Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it." Training a child is something that it doesn't happen a lot anymore, unfortunately. We have what's called electronic babysitters. And what parents too often do is they plop their kid down in front of the TV or they give him a electronic device, whether it's a game or a phone or something, and they want to occupy them. There's a problem with that. See, occupying is not the same thing as training. Training is a very difficult task. Training requires time, it requires effort, it requires repetition, it requires heartache, it requires an example and constant communication. When we're talking about training a child, it takes so much effort, and that's why it's so easy for parents just to set their kid to the side and occupy them instead of training them. I know that it's hard, but man, it's worth it. It's worth it. Why? Because when they're old, they will not depart from it. And a companion verse here in Proverbs chapter 22 would be verse number 15. "Foolishness is bound in the heart of a child, but the rod of correction shall drive it far from him." See those verses about training up a child. Next, I want you to look at verses 17 and 18. They go together. Verse number 17 says, "Bow down thine ear, and hear the words of the wise, and apply thine heart unto my knowledge. For it is a pleasant thing if thou keep them within thee, they shall be fitted, withal be fitted in thy lips." One thing to note is if you see the orange circle and then a line after it, that is the way I mark cause and effect, okay? The effect begins with a circle, and then the line dragging through is the effect thereof, and then what preceded that would be the cause. That's not particularly marked. So verse 17 is the cause. Bow down thine ear and hear the words of the wise, and apply thine heart to my knowledge. If you do that, then the result, the effect of that is that it'll be a pleasant thing. If thou keep them within thee, they shall withal be fitted in thy lips. Now, what those verses mean is this: bow down thine ear. That is submission. You are submitting yourself unto the words of the wise. In other words, you're not acting like you think you know it all. You are humbling yourself and submitting yourself unto the words of the wise, and then committing yourself, and that's the next part. And apply thine heart unto my knowledge. You are committing yourself unto that knowledge. And then if you do that, two things will happen. It will be pleasant if you keep them within you, and they shall withal be fitted in thy lips. In other words, it's going to come forth from you. So I hope you see that there. Submit yourself unto the words of the wife. Commit yourself unto the ways. It'll be pleasant for you, and then that's what you will bring forth as well. And so that's going to do it for our study in Proverbs chapter 22 today. I hope this has been a help and a blessing. Like I said, if you will, let me know if seeing the scriptures is at all a help. It's a little harder to maneuver here, so I might mess up a time or two. But let me know if that's a help to you. If it is, then great. If not, then please let me know. And Lord willing, we'll see you in the next video. God bless.